Firstly, thank you, Barcode-IT guys, for having the Waizu team here today to talk about our solution. Excited to talk about some of the new things we've got in the product, get a bit of feedback, hopefully a bit of discussion happening as well about some of your device and asset challenges. So kind of getting into a little bit around Waizu from an introduction point of view, just to set the scene on who we are. We're a software-only business based in Chippenham, down in Wiltshire, and we are focused on the asset management challenges that many customers have around mobile technology. So mobile technology sort of spans a number of things. They are barcode scanner PDAs that many of you are familiar with, tablet computers, but also to mobile assets such as ring scanners, Bluetooth peripherals, printers. It's a wide category, and I've been in this industry for 20 or so years. I've worked for vendors like Honeywell. I've worked for managed service providers. It didn't really matter what hat I had on. I would be sat with a customer, and asset management would come up as a challenge. Loss prevention. How do we know what devices we've got, where they are, have we got enough? Just how do I provide tools and controls for that? So with that whole sort of history of industry roles, seeing asset management as a challenge, 3.5 years ago, we started Waizu to really focus in on that problem. And I was just mentioning before, actually, we've effectively got one product in our stable, which is quite a change from many companies, many roles. You often have lots of SKUs, lots of products that you're dealing with. We've got one product in solving this problem. So you can get super deep and really focused in on trying to solve that problem. And it is quite a challenge. There's so many nuances to that asset management issue that there's almost no light at the end of the tunnel. There's always stuff to make our product better. Think about a scenario of devices going missing and certain things that happen that, the team are really busy in, making sure we're always thinking about making our solution better and more efficient. And the final point really on here is, it can be often a forgotten part. Many of you in this room, are looking at, maybe it's a new ERP system or a new WMS, infrastructure, hardware, hundreds of thousands of pounds, sometimes millions of pounds in the investment in some of the projects that you guys are involved in. And this can often be a missing part. Don't forget just some of those little marginal gains, to use that term, around what your strategy is with assets, devices, and some of the things I'm going to talk about that really can impact your operation in often a bigger way than many realize. So what do we see when we walk around? I have a particular lens that I'm looking through all the time when I go to customers and sites. I can pretty much spot a missing device from 50 meters. There's one in the corner. So we all see this, don't we, all the time? We're in a store, just in our general day-to-day lives, and people are leaving devices on counters, headsets left lying around, and obviously in distribution and supply chain, it's very evident as well around some of the things we'll see of devices left lying around. And and sometimes this just happens. It's not people necessarily hiding devices or anything malicious. People put stuff down, and they turn their backs, and the pallet's been pulled away, and the device has gone missing. How do you solve that? How do you combat that? What's your solution for addressing that? So we're seeing missing devices, but actually, one of the things when we really get under the skin of missing devices, it's the time that gets wasted around trying to combat that problem. I often talk about the story with this GXO site. That's one of the pictures here. And I'm being shown around the GXO operation by the ops manager. And a kind of slight bit of a double take, because I'm seeing a crowd of 80 people in the corner of the warehouse. I actually thought it was like a town hall happening, a GXO announcement. Oh, what's going on? These guys have acquired another company. There's going to be an announcement. What's happening over here, John? And John tells me, he's looking at me a little bit strange as to me thinking that there's a team meeting going on, because those guys are actually just queuing for their device at the start of the shift. So they have a manual check-in, check-out process. The 80 people at the start of the shift wait to hand their equipment card in and get issued with the device. Now that wait time, what is that? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 shifts a day, 7 days a week. You don't have to really calculate that out too much to realize that's a lot of wasted productivity. How do you get these guys picking? What is that marginal gains that you could improve on if you just get a better process around the check-in, check-out? And all that's done because the devices go missing. They want to try and put a process in place to combat that, but actually what's worse? Is it the tens of thousands of pounds on missing devices, or is it the maybe hundreds of thousands of pounds on lost productivity? So we see that quite a lot. So GXO and our customer, they don't have that process anymore. As I'll show in a second, our system books devices in and out automatically without anyone needing to do anything. This picture up here of the guy smiling in his little tech room, that's Waterstone's distribution center in Burton. This guy's got about 500 devices that he checks out at the start and end of each shift. And he actually has a little double role as well. So he's also, or was also, the guy that came into the Waterstones DC at the weekend, and he actually walked around the DC looking for missing devices, and would find 30, 40 devices every Saturday, left on a pallet, left lying around, chucked in a tote, and he would hoover all those up, get those back into his little room. So we've not put him out of work. He's now put to better use within the Waterstones business. And again, Waizu system now automatically checks devices in and out and knows where they are. So yeah, interesting stories all the time of what we see, and the payback that you can get just on thinking about how you operate a little bit differently. And I'm talking mobile assets, obviously expensive mobile assets in your business, or are the PDAs, the scanners, the devices, the ring scanners, several hundreds of pounds, £1,000. But of course, other end of the spectrum, mobile assets can be some of your dumb mobile assets, totes, trays, cages. And again, we've got a really clever solution using the device as the infrastructure to know whereabouts all your mobile assets are. And it's that ability to use the device as the infrastructure that's quite a game changer, because a lot of customers, let's take this co-op distribution center here on the right, he sort of stockpiles about 4,000 cages that he kind of keeps quiet from head office, because they just go through so many cages. They're out somewhere in the co-op network, but they don't always come back in peak periods to start running low on cages. And so what can co-op do to know, well, where are all the cages in my network? And it's a tougher problem than you think, obviously, because to know where cages are in the co-op network, infrastructure in every store, infrastructure in every distribution center and dock door, like how do the maths work on that? Well, typically they don't, and that's why a lot of companies don't track totes, trays, cages, and can't really think of a solution for it. But if the existing mobile device that you've got in your stores, in your distribution centers, is scanning for all the totes, trays, and cages, it's kind of just doing it without any infrastructure. So it is quite a different game changer when it comes to how you start to put the costs together to make something like that work. And those little Bluetooth beacons, lots of different form factors, so they can be put in on various assets so that you can start to track those cages with a Bluetooth beacon. But you can also know better proximity. So if you wanted, for example, to know, are people taking devices into the canteen or into the locker room, or are devices going past the dock door, you can start to do some really clever stuff with the beaconing technology as well. Now, asset management is a broad topic. I kind of gave the introduction. We're in that market of asset management. But we're really in these two areas of the big expensive IT assets like the devices and the peripherals, through to the extreme of the enterprise assets that are those dumb totes, trays, cages that I talk about. And our products, which we're demonstrating today on the side there, are around the creation of virtual smart capability. So we have a virtual smart cabinet, which is the software that tracks your intelligent devices. And then we have virtual smart zones in our software, which is the view of where you're starting to see your dumb assets, or where are my totes, trays, cages, whatever else you want to beacon up. Now, the idea of virtual smart cabinet is that, as the name implies, you don't need to invest money in a physical infrastructure of smart, intelligent lockers and cabinets, which can be a significant cost to the business. And you do see that, and I do see a number of customers investing in a cabinet because they want a home, they want a nice home for where the devices are kept. But it's still only half the problem, because intelligent cabinets, smart lockers, they don't walk around your distribution center finding missing devices. So over time, when a device has been misplaced, people are going back to the physical cabinets and booking out another device. So fast forward 9 months, 12 months, and those cabinets are like half empty because it hasn't necessarily solved that missing device problem. And I've seen that in a number of instances. Probably the biggest, Morrison's, spent £1.5 million on smart cabinets, and found a year later that they were still losing £1 million of devices, and the cabinets weren't finding the equipment in the DC. So it's a balance to think about how your strategy needs to think about both those sides. So our virtual smart cabinet software is effectively a gated layer that we have on devices. So you can see here in the graphics, our software sits as that top layer on devices before you would get to your MDM, before you get to your applications or your kiosk screen. And so anyone that takes a device, they can't do anything with it until they've authenticated. Now that can be a simple process of tapping your badge on the device. So if you're running access management systems to get into your building, it's a great system for us just to tap into, because it means if anyone in your team or anyone in your site has a badge, that badge is going to access the device. So super easy. You're not having to administer a different system and pins and stuff like that. So that's becoming really popular with our customers to tap into that NFC process. What's also quite interesting then is you can start to think about role-based apps. So if I tap my badge on the device, I might be the picker, I might see velocity, I might see your WMS screen. That's pretty standard. But the managers, you might want to give a different experience to. So the manager taps their badge on the device, they could be presented with 10 apps. More opportunity for you to think about how you get the best out of the device, because £800, £1,000 for a pretty intelligent supercomputer, and you're running like a green screen terminal emulation on it. It's a bit of a travesty. Do more with them, and do more with them by providing role-based apps for different people in the organization. That also lends itself to a bit of standardization. Your driver device, picking device, goods in device, they might be different. And there could be different form factors. And again, just managing that utilization and capacity planning. If you start to standardize, I'm a driver, I grab my device, when I tap my badge, I've got my proof of delivery app, but that same device, the next person grabs it, could be the terminal emulation picking app. It's a nice way of starting to leverage a common platform. And then everything that's happening on the device is live into the Waizu cloud to give you really simple governance around your asset information. So who's got the device, whereabouts is it, what's in and out. And it's designed very much for the operational lens. So most of our customers, could be the shift manager, the site manager, the ops manager, as opposed to IT themselves, where they might have an MDM like SOTI or Intune. That's not our market. Those MDMs are used to deploy Waizu, but really the Waizu dashboard is more for the feet on the street, team leaders and managers. What are the tools that they have to manage their assets? Because they don't typically get access to the MDM. In fact, a lot of the time, if I'm with customers and I say, what MDM do you use? They'll say, what's an MDM? Because that's not their world, really. They're not given access to Intune and SOTI to muck about with profiles, and sort of rightly so. So what tool have they got to manage devices and see what's in and out? So when, again, just visually to talk about virtual cabinets, any area could be set up as a virtual cabinet. So, cross-platform, so it works with any of the devices that you've already got in your operation. And it may be that you've already got a room, a shelf, some form of cabinet. So you effectively can smartify, if that's a word, that cabinet to know exactly who's taking devices in and out through our software process. Some little things, might be marginal gains again, but we're trying to say, look, some of these things can make an impact on your operation. Battery is probably the biggest cause of failure for devices that's out there. And the cost of that can significantly add up, particularly if there's a battery in one of your devices that's not going to last a full shift. Again, just a small little thing, but that's disrupting, just trying to be a super slick operation and getting the best out of your team. So come to the start of a shift and immediately see what your battery level is, green, amber and red. Grab one that's going to last the full shift, but also know whether or not a battery's only going to last a couple of hours. Obviously fast forward 3 years with your technology, and as the cycle counts of that batteries happen, many charge cycles, it's not going to last a full shift. So you need a way of getting those batteries out of your operation, or people will just constantly be changing their battery in the shift. And those little things, as I say, can really add up. So just kind of a quick look at user identity. Yeah, I don't know how easy that was to see, but again, that's just the simple tap of a NFC badge. So, they can either be the cards, they can be the little fobs, that same system you're using internally, tap on the device and you're through to the kiosk. Seems to end a little bit abruptly there, that video, but lost device mode that was showing. So there's a couple of things to this that's quite interesting because, when I sort of really got into Waizu as a system and we're thinking about, how do we get customers sort of using Waizu to be as proactive as possible? This sort of habitual consumption term that I used. You started to then realize actually it's the opposite. How do you get people not using Waizu? Now you get people not using Waizu by just actually taking care of itself. So lost device mode was quite a breakthrough around that sort of thinking, where we could think, how do we put a device in lost mode without anybody doing anything? Like, how would you know a device is lost Well, you might know a device is lost because you go to where you keep all your kit and you've got 10 devices and there's only 8 there. You think, shit, where are the other 2? So you want to try and find them. You can go into Waizu and you can see those 2 devices and you can be effectively reactive, locate them. But again, that's like using Waizu. So to my point of, how can you just make this stuff happen without you doing anything? We can set rules in Waizu for devices to go into lost mode without you doing anything. So that might be 2 hours of inactivity. Someone puts a device down, they've forgotten about it, it's on a pallet or it's left, it will automatically move into lost device mode, alert an alarm, and effectively flag that I'm a missing device. So it's one of those things that, back to having one SKU and being really, really focused on this problem and getting super into the detail of it. It's some of the lenses and the things you can think about to try and solve these problems before you even realize that they are problems. Bit of a busy screen, but your virtual cabinets, you don't have to spend £2,000 on every cabinet. You just do it with a click of a mouse. So have as many virtual cabinets as you want. Goods in, picking, different locations where you store your equipment, different sites. He's one of our customers with depots all around the country. Obviously, the managers and super users can see the lens and the view across all of their virtual cabinets. But, I'm the ops manager at, say, Peter Lee. I log in, I only see the Peter Lee devices. So a lot of sort of roles and responsibilities there to see your different asset pools as virtual cabinets. This is our view that we have as our cockpit app. So you can log into your device and you can see this on a device. So it's the same thing around the virtual cabinets, but just a different way of displaying that. This could be on a tablet computer or could be on your manager's devices. Again, back to role-based apps. I'm the manager, I log in and I get to see my cockpit and my dashboard around my devices and what's in and out. Drilling into that view I showed before of who's got which device in and out of operation. And then that drill down for locationing as well in the platform. And a cool feature we've got coming out later this year is the ability for you to upload your own indoor mapping. So if you've got a particular building profile or campus profiles, they can be uploaded in Waizu. So you've got live pinpoints of where your assets and your equipment are related to your map and your building. Mezzanine floors, different areas. That's just graphically really cool. And some of the work we've been doing on that, again, is really exciting. So I've talked a lot there just about, obviously those expensive assets, the Android devices, your tablets, peripherals. Just to touch again on the other end of the spectrum on your dumb assets. I talked about cages with Co-op, totes and trays with the likes of Greencore and some of these food manufacturers. Again, using the device to scan probably a 20 to 25 meter radius. So, one device, let's say there's one PDA that's effectively being used around your distribution center. It's going to pick up every single asset that's in this entire room just from one device that you already own. So there's different use cases, obviously, for different things. You might want to get super granular and detailed around RFID. But for totes, trays, cages, you might just want to know, well, how many have I got in this room and how many are out in store A? Is it store B that's not sending them back? So it's that type of closed loop asset management where this absolutely lends itself to be very, very effective. And just finally positioning a little bit around Waizu and an MDM. We've clearly gone on a journey over the last 3 and 4 years with the team around building more capability into the Waizu product, where I think we've definitely got a clearer message around how we operate, where we operate, why we're of value. But just to put these circles up on the screen, obviously a device management is still a critical software tool for your devices, you need it for your profile, you need it to lock down devices, and you also need it to deploy Waizu. So Waizu is really giving you that identity, know who's got which device, accountability. It's going to reduce all your damage because people are looking after kit better. And it'll tell you where all of your assets and your devices are. So that might just be an easy positioning slide just to understand a little bit of that landscape. And then just a couple of slides. I mentioned Waterstones. There's about 1,500 devices managed by Waizu across all their stores and DC. Big improvement around that missing device challenge. And then GXO, that story that I gave around the team meeting at the start and end of every shift, that operational impact around just issuing and receiving devices without that manual intervention is huge, to the point where they were able to do an ROI model where they could get 5 additional pickers for the cost of that manual check-in, check-out process being automated. And obviously Waterstones is like a great brand and a great advocate of ours, and nothing probably says it better than that statement there, which we're particularly proud of. And it's almost quite amusing in a way to think, if Waterstones lost one device, I'm going to kind of take it really personal. Be like, damn, Waterstones have lost a device. What's going on? I like, what's happening with why is Waizu not solving it? So it's definitely a passionate process of staying on top of this issue for our customers. Q&A, thoughts, kind of.
Stephen. Got Stephen on, haven't we?
Yeah, do we want to bring Stephen on now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, right, Stephen. We can hear you. Can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes. I can hear you, yes. How are you doing?
Great, yeah, we're good. So you're live. You're live on Channel 4. Please do not swear. So yeah, the room are listening to you now, and I guess Stephen's a joint customer that we've got with the Barcode-IT guys.
First customer that put this into.
It was, yeah, good point. Yeah, our very first installation together. So Stephen, yeah, over to you. Just talk a little bit about that project and how you got on with that.
Yeah, so we are. Let's get the feedback. We initially devices for packaging and faces for dispatch orders out in our warehouse. We've took on 15-ish. And we're sort of looking at getting them all. That's a debate between these directors. But yeah, so what Waizu has done for us is the initial from warehouse situation, and the idea of people just dropping off the devices. That was
definitely a
concern that we had from the start, and then those two was introduced to us by Jonathan, and it really has just removed all the concerns that we had from that. Anytime a device has been like 5 minutes, I'm getting an alert. Anytime the recharging rates, if they lose power for whatever reason, they all start going like 5 minutes. So there's no way that at no point we ever come in the next morning after the night before and all the devices are out of power. We go straight like I can get things like touch statistics. Where the devices are, like how many of them are in people's hands, who's got access to it at the time. The best thing that I can say about Waizu is when we first got these devices, I was checking every hour, and then it was every day. These days, I kind of know that Waizu is doing the job for me. I don't need to worry too much about the devices. I check them around once a week, go around and make sure that we're all in as good shape as they can be in a very busy warehouse. But yeah, it's literally about a week ago. I think there's the anniversary was putting the devices in place, and we've not lost a single device. We've had no problems with devices. It's down to some amazing software that's on them, and we're very grateful that it's, for Dorsey, just as a big head of such concerns that we're playing with, we're encouraging my directors to go down this technology route.
Great, thank you, Stephen. Yeah, thank you, Stephen, for that. That's great. Okay. Did we have any questions? I'm not sure how we are with time.
What reporting functionality can you do from Waizu?
Reporting. Yeah, I mean, reporting is an interesting kind of topic in a way, because there is a view around trying to be more proactive with things. So I'm a little bit kind of left and right when it comes to reporting, as in I'm somewhat reluctant to give people reports that they're having to trawl through and figure out, right, what do I do? So the other view is how do we actually create a set of like actual mission critical alerts, or how do we create something that forces an action without you actually having to go through a report? So there's a bit of a balance just on how we're trying to tackle that problem. You can go into the Waizu web platform and you can see all of reporting around your devices, the status of devices. You've got dashboard pages and reporting pages, but my point really is I'm not super comfortable with that. It sort of ticks the box for reporting, but I want to do a better job around trying to deliver outcomes without a lot of wading into reports, if that makes sense.
I just want to interrupt. I think what's really good about the guys at Waizu is the fact that you can have sort of an open line of communication with them. We've been doing a lot of work with one of our customers recently to get it to do other things. So I think what's important to note is if there's something that a feature or a function that you'd be interested in seeing in there, we can have that open communication, and if they think it's a good fit as well, we'll just put it in.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. John.
How scalable is your solution across enterprise?
Yeah, it's another thing that you sort of crawl, walk, run a little bit in the approach to, I think, a lot of businesses, and I feel we've been quite fortunate in a way that we didn't pick off a 10,000 user customer on day one. We're now about 100 customers in Waizu, and it's sort of gradually scaled up to now we've got the multi-thousand level customers. So part of that journey is absolutely into that enterprise redundancy, resilience topic, and some of those bigger customers start demanding a lot more information and capability around that. As a cloud system, we're taking advantage of Microsoft Azure infrastructure. So there's a lot in that Azure stack around resilience, redundancy, data residency. We've got Waizu in different locations around the world. So our European customers have Waizu running out of our Netherlands infrastructure. Our customers in North America are running Waizu out of the North American infrastructure. And then in the UK, we've got different database setups around UK South, UK Southwest for more of that resilience piece. So yeah, that's been quite a learning curve and quite a journey. And I think the type of customers that we're involved with, John, they absolutely probe hard into that. So you've got to be at that level to perform.
Brilliant.
Okay, thanks everyone.